And now something completely different.
Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show, 888-659-3727. Great to be here. Another Tuesday night doing the hair loss show. If you have no clue what this is, you are listening to, and watching The Bald Truth. Now, I'm a consumer advocate for men and women dealing with hair loss. I also happen to be the author of The Bald Truth and The Truth About Women's Hair Loss, the two most read books on the subject and the prevention, I do that all the time, the subject of the prevention and treatment of hair loss currently in the world. Sounds pretty impressive, right? Well, I guess a lot of people read my books, but with that said, my first book was published 20 years ago. Well, it will be 20 years ago, which is hard to believe that I've been doing this for that long. This is a program that we've been doing for just about the same amount of time, where men and women who are dealing with hair loss can talk about hair loss, can talk about living life as hair loss sufferers, can talk about a subject that society doesn't really allow us to talk about. It's like the last bastion of political incorrectness. For whatever reason, obviously, and I'm not saying that it's this is a great thing, but, fat shaming, that can't happen anymore. I get that. Any other type of body shaming can't happen anymore. I get that. But for some reason, bald shaming, hair loss shaming, hair thinning shaming, that's cool. Toupee jokes, hair transplant jokes. Anything that has to do with someone trying to either deal with a genetic condition, whether they're trying to treat their hair loss, whether they're trying to cover their hair loss, whether they're trying to have surgery to regain the hair or to move hair in areas that are now thinning. For some reason, that is still looked at by society as a joke. Hair loss affects 2/3 of men by the age of 35. 40% of hair loss sufferers are women. It is the biggest silent, I don't know what's happening, Joe. Silent epidemic of all humankind. And a guy like me had to come out here and create a community of other guys like me so that we can have a place to fucking talk about this. Now, you're going to see articles in magazines and men's magazines, and every once in a while you see something in the mainstream media on the news about the latest and greatest hair loss treatment. Believe me, all these media outlets are looking for are eyeballs. They don't really give a shit. They still think of hair loss as a joke. Now, they understand how many people it affects. And apparently, if there's some sort of new device or new treatment or something that's cleared by the FDA, that this is news and is going to get people to come and watch or listen to them. What's being provided to the general population when it comes to anything as far as treating or preventing hair loss, for the most part, is just what I like to call, I can't even remember what I like to call it. It's like, dude, something's got to give. I don't know what's happening. Press release journalism. That's what I like to call it, because that's what it is. Someone sends a press release out. We have the greatest machine that does, hair transplants. We can extract 2,000 or 3,000 grafts per second. and the let me pull up Joe, and the press picks that up, and all of a sudden we're getting all the emails through the American Hair Loss Association. People are contacting us through this program. People are contacting me through the Bald Truth and the IHRS, and it's just this misinformation being perpetuated by these press releases that are being put out by these either device manufacturers or hair transplant surgeons or trichologists or people trying to make a buck in this industry. And that information is then passed out and passed from website to website online. And it's just a tremendous ball of misinformation. And sadly, it's only getting worse. Now, I didn't have Joe potted down, so you guys heard him laugh, so I figured I would put his video up. Let's say hi to Joe Tillman, live from our studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. He's the original hair transplant mentor, been a friend of the program for more than a decade, and has somehow weaseled his way into being my sidekick. Welcome.
It's what I do, man.
How
you doing?
You do it well. You know what? As I always say, I can't complain. Things are good. The hair loss industry is trucking along as usual. More bullshit to be found every day. You brought it up a couple of weeks ago. I was contacted by these people through LinkedIn. I'm not saying it's bullshit, but I'm saying just more stuff is coming out. Apparently, there's a new robot coming out of India.
It's not a robot.
And I'm trying to figure out what's exactly robotic about it.
It's a chair with a motor.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Well, there's a device that looks kind of like an enhanced neograft device.
Yeah, held in someone's hand.
Right. And
not a robotic hand, and a human hand.
Right. And they also provide an entire setup where they have a chair that moves. If you want to buy, you can buy. It looks like you can buy the device separately or in pairs with the whole setup. So it looks like you got this whole thing happening. And they reached out to me, as I'm pretty sure they probably reached out to you as well.
Yeah, they did.
And I saw that someone from the artist company posted about it on Facebook as well. I made a comment on his post, and for some reason the comment was deleted, which is kind of shocking to me.
On which thread or which?
It was actually an executive of Restoration Robotics who posted about this and actually directed his post to Bob Bernstein. And I chimed in basically saying that I was contacted by the company, and I still haven't figured out what the robotic aspect of this is, but it doesn't matter because it really is how the company decides to create the narrative. If they create the correct narrative, then Restoration Robotics has some real competition. That's just the way that it works. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's the way this industry works.
It is the way the industry works.
Now, it doesn't mean that this is actually a robot. It doesn't mean that it could perform the same tasks as the artist robot by any means. I don't know that for sure. I mean, just from the looks of it and knowing this industry and understanding the nuances and how different devices work, it appears to be a motorized device that may have some sort of a robotic aspect. I don't know if there's some sort of AI in there. I mean, I have no clue, to be honest with you. So I don't want to speak out of turn. I'm having a deja vu for some reason. But,
well, we did kind of touch on this, I think, on our last show a couple weeks ago, last time we were live, and I gotta say, I was intrigued when I was contacted by these people. I wasn't aware of who they were, but then when I saw the animation that they sent to me, then I realized, oh wait, I have seen these guys. It's the motorized dental chair.
Yeah,
and
But don't you think? I don't mean to cut you off, but don't you think there's going to be a segment of the hair transplant physician population, probably in Asia and maybe other parts of the world, who, if the marketing is right and if the price is right, may gravitate to this because, especially if it's something that could actually do the job as far as at least coring, dissecting, extracting grafts, gravitate to this just purely for the marketing component or aspect of it because it claims to be robotic. The company is going to be putting out literature that it's robotic. Now, I have to say that in my view, because of where, and this is terrible to say, but this is just the reality of we're not in Asia. We're used to seeing certain types of presentations in marketing. Their particular marketing, from what I can see so far, seems to be more geared towards the Indian type of market, something that would be more palatable in Asia than here in the U.S.
I can see that, but I think that there has to be a baseline for what a robot actually is before you can call something or refer to something as being robotic. Robotic means that
who doesn't agree with that?
There's some sort of robotic component beyond having some sort of servo that makes a chair go back and forth.
I agree.
Okay, I could be wrong, but I'm going to go on a limb here and say there's nothing robotic about this unless they're saying that the fact that the chair moves back and forth, that alone is a robotic action.
Yeah, I really have no idea. When you take a look at it, it's broken down to different components. And one component that they talk about as far as it being robotic is the inner workings of the extraction device itself. So
Which looks like a handheld wand, just like the NeoGraft or a Smart Graft or something like that, with a motorized punch that an operator will hold. And from what I understand, this whole package, like if you get the whole shebang, you're looking at a cubicle basically for the back, and then you got the chair, and you've got the other wall that's also curved. You got a screen that maybe it's some sort of representation of their head, maybe it's Netflix, who knows. And on both sides, you've got on one side you got the extractor, on the other side you got the person who scores the graft, and then the handheld unit, and it pulls it in some sort of reservoir, just like these other smart grafts, and that's it. There is no robotic component to this. And
I'll tell you the one thing that I thought it was pretty.
I thought it was a joke at first, to be honest with you.
I did too. But I tell you one thing, at least according to the information I was able to glean from their marketing materials, the fact that the reservoir is actually on the handpiece, and which leaves very little opportunity for graft desiccation once it's suctioned out.
I thought it was a good idea.
Is actually a pretty good idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought it was a good idea, and of course that holds whatever holding solution you want, saline, hyperthermal, whatever.
But my point is it doesn't matter that it's robotic or not. That's my whole point. My point is we know at least what it appears to be. It does not appear to be a true robot in the sense that we all understand robots. However, and again, I say appear because I don't know for sure. However, it doesn't matter. If there was a company out there who is willing to work with this company and say, you know what, this looks really cool. We're going to put some Western spin on it, really get a strong marketing person behind this, and create an online narrative that is going to kick the shit out of anybody else out there, they would win. That is the way this industry works.
Well, what it comes down to is how much funding they have behind this to really get that message out there. If they've got the funds, then they win hands down. I mean, it's just a money game. That's all there is to it. You push this message out enough, then there you go. You've got the messages out there, and people start talking about it being a robot.
And that's the point, and that's what's unfortunate about. And that's a post that I made actually. And I'm not usually that vocal on Facebook about these things, but I made that point. It was erased by the executive over at Restoration Robotics, which I find
that is unusual,
fascinating, since I have consulted for the company or consulted for the company for 2 years and, provided them with a tremendous amount of insight. My point is, it's such a vulnerable place for consumers that it all ends up just being marketing. Now look at NeoGraft. Not saying there's anything wrong with a NeoGraft, but the marketing was so elegant, so in your face, so simple, that they completely, essentially took over an industry in a relatively short period of time. And I'm talking about just the concept of strip versus FUE. Now, they are still the leaders in the strip versus FUE game. They are still the leaders in selling boxes, so to speak.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that they have a better mousetrap.
Just they were the first out of the gate, and they had the most compelling marketing to support it. And they came on the scene so strong and so powerfully that they almost supplanted the actual term FUE with being a NeoGraft procedure. And I used to get phone calls. Do you guys offer the NeoGraft procedure? It's like,
I still do. I actually get,
not sure what that procedure is, but no.
I will tell you this, and this is, well, I'll say it. In the last 3 or 4 months, I'm getting more requests for NeoGraft than ever before. Less requests for artists as far as information about the robot, and many, many more requests about NeoGraft. So whatever NeoGraft is doing right now, they've cranked it up because they are killing it. Now what?
Turned up to 11.
Yeah. Now what does this mean? What's funny is, the way NeoGraft came out of the gates, it's a very small company. Came out of the gates, it was one main guy. It was almost like a door-to-door situation. And they were able to kind of just wow the industry and make it like, okay, you know what? You guys want to get into this really fast-growing industry where you can make a lot of money? This is a turnkey solution. We provide everything. And it was fucking brilliant, but so simple. The problem is we've gone so far backwards in patient results, patient satisfaction, the way the industry is being looked at now, sadly. It's been commoditized to a point that I thought when I came in 1998 that it was really effed up. It doesn't even compare.
No, it's worse now than it's been in 20 years.
Than ever. And no one knows that because the narrative, and I keep repeating the same word, it's complete spin. It's as though, wait a second, we had this new technology, these new techniques. FUE isn't new, guys. Here's a news flash. Been around for a long time. Doctors don't like me to say this. There's a certain doctor in Atlanta that really hates the fact that I say this, but I introduced FUE to North America. Ray Woods introduced it to me. And sadly, Ray is now, and we were talking about this earlier, Joe, simply a footnote in the history of FUE when this guy is the guy who is not doing it well, in my opinion. He was doing surgery well, but not doing his marketing well. He wasn't able to express himself well. He wasn't able to get his message out to the public well. He took a tactic that I explained would not work, but he thought that I was somehow trying to sabotage that. But I took that information, I provided it to doctors here in the U.S., or actually in North America, U.S. and in Canada, and everyone said that I was crazy. Everyone, including a doctor in Atlanta who now takes credit for being kind of like the grandfather of FUE. So I don't know why I'm going on this rant, except the fact that now, I was saying how it's nothing new. This was back in like 1998, 1999. Really didn't start to come into play and into the public's eye until around 2000, 99, 2000. 2001, it really started to take off in the online world.
Well, the way that I actually came up with a new abbreviation for how I can describe the current state of the industry, where everyone's talking about flicker unit extraction, FUE. Almost no one's talking about strip. I still get questions about strip. How some people are they think that, well, I'll get a better yield, or there's more grafts long term, and that's great, and I'm happy to talk about that. But the way that results are being shared now by clinics on their websites or on forums or what have you, the thing that's bothering me with the results today compared to 10 years ago is that it can be classified with a new term, MMFUE, mini micrografting FUE.
Yeah.
Because that is the way that the results are looking compared to 20 years ago. It looks like mini micrografting, but with FUE as opposed to a proper follicular unit transplantation, which by definition, when you're talking about strip surgery, involves the use of stereoscopic dissecting microscopes to refine the grafts and make sure they're not chunky, chubby, pluggy, anything like that. So what we have is an explosion of new clinics on the scene over the past 5, 6, 7 years, where that's all they do is FUE. They have zero experience with strip to begin with, or if they do have experience with strip, it's from many, many years ago, and they've never adopted the microscope aspect of proper follicular unit transplantation, and have gone backward into the age of mini micrografting, where magnification wasn't needed, or not needed, but it wasn't used.
It wasn't used.
It was either eyeballed, or you had at best jeweler's loops, which are just a few X magnification, and that's where you would have the results that were good, much better than plugs, but not good enough. There was a plugginess to them. You would have multi-hairs in the hairline, although the casual observer wouldn't really know what was going on. Anyone that had any experience with hair restoration would be able to spot it just like that, as compared to around 2000, I'd say 2007, 2008, which in my view was the pinnacle of follicular unit strip surgery. And you compare that to today, it's night and day.
Dude, it was the height. I mean, there's a guy now he's involved with the robot company who actually used to tell me this, and he said it publicly, that follicular unit transplants, FUT, strip surgery, grafts dissected under binocular microscopic dissection was the logical endpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And the gold standard for hair transplant surgery, because for several reasons, but A, you were dealing with a 360-degree field of vision, and you're able to dissect those grafts in a way that cannot be done, for the most part, via FUE, at least consistently. I can say this. I think you're being very diplomatic. I can say that the majority of work that I see coming in now, especially from newer guys they're using all different devices, not just a robot or the NeoGraft or, one of these, heavily marketed devices. I'm talking about guys who are getting their hands on, smaller, less expensive devices to do FUE.
Mm-hmm.
They're going in there. They are extracting these grafts. Some of the grafts are chunky. Some of the grafts are denuded. So it's just what I'm seeing that's being implanted into people's scalps is a joke.
Yep.
And they are putting up a shingle and claiming that they are experts in the field because they're using a specific type of technology. I'm here to tell you people, anyone who's listening to this broadcast, anyone who is considering surgical hair restoration, this industry is more dangerous than it has ever been. And I guess I'm passionate about this today, and I've been passionate about it obviously for a long time, because I am just inundated with complaints. And I'm not talking about complaints from IHS members. While I do get complaints from IHS members, patients as well. And, that's just the nature of cosmetic surgery. I am talking about the sheer number of complaints just through the American Hair Loss Association that we're getting. It's at a point that I have never seen. And I've been doing this for 20 years. So all I can tell you is things are getting really fucked up. Things are getting worse. It's becoming far more dangerous out there. And no matter what the industry thinks as far as its growth, because it is growing. I mean, there are clinics popping up in Turkey every day. So when you go to the ISHRS and you look at the stats, or when the media contacts us and asks for stats, I have to tell them what the stats are. And the stats are that there is significant growth in this industry. But people are walking away with terrible results. And there's still only a handful. I'm sorry, my friend in the UK, who thinks a handful means less than 10. There's still really only a handful of doctors who are performing surgery to state-of-the-art standards. And there are a couple of doctors who were once performing surgery to state-of-the-art standards, guys who were once part of the IHRS, who are no longer part of the IHRS, because in my view, I'm not going to name names, obviously, but in my view, some of these guys have crossed over because just out of pure survival and kind of forgot what they were used to do, almost threw away their infrastructure of the way they used to perform strip surgery to get into FUE, or to claim that they are doing pure. They don't believe in the linear scar anymore. They're just doing FUE. They attach themselves to a device, and I got to tell you, we are getting a lot of complaints. You're not going to see these names on the IHRS anymore. And, Joe, you and I have discussed a situation recently. We don't want to, you don't want to get into details, but it's just mind-blowing. So this is a really important show for anyone who's considering surgical hair restoration. And you notice that we talk about this a lot now. We're not talking about the gray market products. We're not talking about the hope on, what's on the horizon, what's coming down the pike. We're dealing with what we're dealing with today. And I really believed, and I think you stated it correctly, Joe, that in 2008, 2009, even 2010, we were at a pinnacle. We were at a place where we had the most consistent, natural-looking results ever in this field.
Couldn't get any better.
No, didn't exist.
And it hasn't. It's gone downhill.
Yeah. And even the guys who were producing those results, sadly, are still relying on those old results, trying to produce similar FUE results, and they're failing.
Well, that's another thing that's bothering me a lot, actually, is you see, when we talked about this, I think at the last show, or maybe the one before that, where we've got established clinics in the follicular unit strip world from that era, 2007, 2008, 2009, that were recognized as being like just about as good as you can get. And they've made that transition into FUE. And here we are, a few years later, and they have almost nothing to show for this transition. And they're relying, like you said, on their large library of strip results from the previous decade. And, I understand the need for being able to carry on business as usual, but it's up to I think it's up to the consumer to use your head. I mean, when you're looking, here's what kills me. Dr. X is a great FUE surgeon. Why? Well, he's been doing this for 20 years. You mean he's been doing FUE for 20 years? No, he's been doing it for 2, but look at his results with strip. It blows my mind how people can look at this and think that they're the same thing. They're not. They're vastly different procedures. And if you don't have the experience with one, how can the experience from the other translate? It doesn't compute for me. It's illogical. It's just, I think it's a lack of understanding. I guess. I mean, I can't really relate to how people don't put 2 and 2 together on this, that they're not the same. It's like saying a bicycle mechanic is a great car mechanic. No, It's nothing like that.
Yeah, but you have to understand, Joe, that you are speaking from a rational place. You're also speaking from a place as you're essentially a learned man. You've gone through this. Not only do you know the industry inside out because you've been, in the field, in the trenches for so long, you also were a kid. At one point, you were a kid who made mistakes.
Oh yeah.
And we all just want to believe. So when something is presented to a desperate guy who's dealing with hair loss, and they're seeing it over and over again, and they're seeing it in the press, and doctors are making all kinds of claims, and now plastic surgeons and cosmetic surgeons or any physician could essentially hang up a shingle and claim that they are providing a certain type of a service because they're attaching themselves to a device. People want help. They want to be fixed. They don't necessarily want to listen to us right away. Sadly, when you look up hair loss, when you look up hair transplantation, when you Google all these terms, you're going to find Bald Truth Talk. You're going to find the American Hair Loss Association. People are going to find this show. They're going to find Hair Transplant Mentor. And they may stop and say, you know what, this is really cool stuff. But they're not telling me how to get fixed. I want to get fixed. And this guy's offering me a way to get fixed for $4.99 a graft.
But here's the thing. It's like I'm actually dealing with several people right now. The most recent is this lovely young lady from Singapore that is talking to me about a doctor that she thinks is going to be able to fix her hairline. And she keeps referencing this one doctor who is very good with strip surgery. But she is deathly afraid of strip surgery. She's only going to have FUE, even though she had a horrible FUE from a doctor in Korea. And she keeps going back to this doctor for strip results. And I keep asking her, well, you want FUE, so what FUE results are you looking at that tells you that this is, you're an Asian woman that wants a FUE, and you're looking at Caucasian male results with strip. So I try to lead a horse to water, right? I'm trying to lead her down that path to say, you want this procedure for your characteristics, but you're looking at a different procedure for different characteristics and trying to relate to that as being something that would work on you. And I'm having difficulty getting through to her on this. It's not a language barrier. She speaks perfect English. But she's just one of the people.
She wants to believe that she wants help. And I understand that. I get that. It's very difficult just to say, throw up your hand and say, fuck it, I guess there's nothing that could really be done. No one wants to believe that.
Yeah.
So
you're right.
They take their chances and they believe what the so-called professionals tell them, and then they end up coming back to us. And we're not like, you can't be like, well, we told you so. I mean, but it happens so often that I just want to smack some of these people and say, why do you think we do this every week? Why do you think I'm going on my 20th year in this industry? It's not because I need to make a living anymore. And it may sound obnoxious, or at least doing this, I don't.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, there are times when I'm just like, this industry's so fucked up. Why am I even still here?
Yeah.
It's just it's ridiculous.
I get it. It is ridiculous.
But I'm here and you're here because every once in a while we'll get a phone call from some guy who we saved. Every once in a while you get an email. And we get a lot of them, to be honest with you, from people who we've helped, who really appreciate the work that we do.
Yeah.
Guys who have read my book, 20 years ago when it first was published, who still tune in, who are, part of Bald Truth Talk, who still contribute because they feel that, I was able to guide them in the right direction. That is what keeps me going. But as each year progresses, and I was actually telling Alan Bauman this the other day, Dr. Bauman, that I don't even know why I'm here. I don't know if I want to continue to do this anymore. Because no matter how hard we fight to make things right, Someone comes in and fucks it up. And you know what? These doctors, they put their heads down. They're like, oh, I guess we have to do this to survive. We have to make concessions. Am I being too candid?
No, I don't think you are. Not at all.
Just pisses me off. It doesn't make any sense. They're destroying their own industry.
Well, it's just frustrating, right? I mean, like you said, we get the calls and emails or whatever from people that do appreciate what we do, and that's great. I mean, there are days where I do smile and it feels good to be doing this, but it's kind of overwhelming to know how much BS is going on out there, how many people are being duped. I was talking to the guy this morning, actually. I called him up. He's having a problem. I actually had to, long story short, he's going through a personal issue.
By the way, please.
Where the proper response is too late. No, I'm trying. He's having some really tough personal issues. And he reached out to me feeling desperate that he needs to get his hair fixed. And I already sent him one email saying you don't need to be fixed. You need to regroup. Take a knee, relax, let the puzzle pieces fall where they may.
I know. You told me about this guy.
Yeah. And I called him today because he's been sending me more emails, and I hate typing.
Yeah, but you're very good at it.
I just called him and I had to explain to him. You need to regroup. You need to just take a knee, relax, and don't rush into anything. And his logic was, well, if I get something done now, I should be in a better headspace about a year from now, and my hair will be ready. It's like, no, it's not. That's not the way you do it. Relax for about a year, and then make these life-altering decisions.
Right.
Then, not now.
Right. But the way that everything is marketed is, besides the fact that, the large chains have been marketing for years, keep up with your hair loss, that sets into somebody's mind. And if they have major life changes going on, they're kind of like, well, you know what? I can kind of take care of this now. So when everything is said and done and fixed in my life, I'm going to be able to go back out there with this incredible head of hair.
But one of these big chains is actually also tempting him with, if you sign before March 30th, it's only $4.50 a graft.
Yeah,
and
that should be illegal. First of all, that should be illegal.
It should be. I think in Canada it is enticing patients, I forgot how they reference it, but it's some sort of, you can't entice a patient into having a surgery that they would otherwise not have, if there was no sale involved or whatever, no special. So, I don't think it's illegal, but it's highly frowned upon, or there are regulations. I'm not sure. It's bad news.
Right.
So, and it might be in some states as well, but it's just, I guess it's down on hair transplant surgery day here at Bald Truth Talk.
Well, here's the thing. We know what hair transplant surgery can do. When it's well executed, it's done by a great surgeon with a great team. You are living proof of what a great hair transplant is. I make a part of my living through the IHRS, through doctors who pay a fee to be a part of my organization. That's it. But these doctors also want to be a part of what we do because they support the truth. That's, as soon as someone applies to the group, one of the first things I ask them is, are you comfortable with what I say on my broadcast? Because our first, I always tell someone the first line of attack is to do nothing about your hair loss.
Yeah.
And that surgery is a last resort. And I explain to these doctors, look, man, I don't have to sell surgery. Surgery sells itself. I can't talk most of these guys out of surgery, no matter how hard I try. But I have to tell them the truth.
Of course.
And there hasn't been, at one point there was a couple of guys who've come to me over the years, but one guy actually contacted me and said, what are you guys doing over there? This woman called me up and said you talked her out of surgery. Well, that's what you signed up for, dude.
Yeah.
But I am not down on hair transplant surgery. Hair transplant surgery is life-changing. It can change somebody's life in ways that it's difficult to articulate when you meet somebody like yourself who would have been really fucked up if you were just left with those plugs in the front of your hairline.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I'm down on it because there's more of an opportunity for people to be screwed up than ever before.
Well, you're not down on hair transplants. You're down on the way the industry is evolving, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I think that, and because that's what's happening to me, and we become jaded over the years, but the truth is, if we allow ourselves to become too jaded, and if we kind of turn the other cheek. Is that the right term? Or, just look the other way. Look the other way, I should say. And we can. And I know that I can. I can basically open up a little latch. That door opens up, and a lot of money comes through that door. It's as easy as that.
Yeah.
And if I ever do that, you guys are going to come to my website. There's going to be like a little picture of a cartoon little kid with a fishing rod on a dock. And it's going to say, "Gone fishing, mother effers." So you'll know.
Sitting on a robot?
Yeah, you'll know that I sold out. But I still think that there's hope that we can turn things around. I have some ideas. I have some things that I want to do this year, and I've talked to you about them. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to be a lot more. I hate to use the word militant about things because that really has a negative connotation. But I guess I have to be a lot more dogmatic about how I approached certain things and how I kind of project my message to the consumer. And that's going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable. But I think we've gotten to the point where I have to roll shit back to 1998 where I was just, kicking ass and taking names and swinging for the fences without giving a shit.
Yeah.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Well, with some of the interactions I've had with some doctors lately, I tend to agree with you on that. It might be time to dust off the old Joetronic ways and put the glove on and get back in the game because, man, there's some bad characters out there. And some of the run-ins I've had lately, especially some of the conversations I've had with some doctors, it's like not doctors I work with. But I talked to you about some of this.
I'm getting things that some of the stuff that you talked to me about, and I get people who send me letters that they're receiving from physicians, and we've talked about this on the air for years. There used to be a guy online, and he's a really good doctor, but I mean he would flex his what he considered to be legal muscle, and really intimidate a lot of guys who sadly don't have the wherewithal to understand that this particular physician doesn't have a leg to stand on, and that you actually control the game as the patient. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're right. A lot of patients don't realize the kind of leverage that they have when it comes to the online world, and that when they get these threats or intimidating phone calls or emails from doctors that don't like what they're saying online, it is well within your rights, as long as you're doing things the right way, to give them the middle finger, literally and figuratively.
Just be honest. Just be forthright. Yeah. Stick to the facts. Okay.
Yep, stick to the facts.
There's no reason to be incendiary.
Don't give character assessments or anything like that.
Absolutely not. But that's the problem. It's such a personal issue. People believe, and they've been harmed or they've been misled, and it becomes such a personal issue that it's very difficult for them to stick to the facts. So in some cases, they are defaming, and there is possible defamatory defamation in what they write and what they're posting online. Yeah. I don't think, and I'm very against this, that the internet and these message forums should be allowed to be used to extort physicians. And sadly, that is what's done out there. The majority of, I would say almost all of the message forums out there have a very lax policy when it comes to that. They are not very well moderated. They will allow for disparaging comments that can be possibly defamatory. And in some cases, they can be proven to be defamatory to stay up on those forums.
Yeah.
Because they are protected by the Consumer Decency Act. What is it? Section 203?
Something like that.
Why can't I remember that? This is my business. I'm getting old, dude. So, but the point is there is I think there has to be some ethical boundaries. And, the one thing that I've really tried to do since we started Bald Truth Talk, especially since like within the first few weeks, we came in about a decade after the game had started as far as message forums are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
So all the other the big message forums out there, they have hundreds of thousands, if not millions possibly, of indexed pages on Google before we even had one post.
Millions? Do you think anyone's got millions?
Nah,
of
probably
pages?
not. I think that's hyperbole. But at least
tens of thousands.
At least tens of thousands. Yeah.
Yeah.
A significant amount that can really help to drive more traffic into their websites and give them more visibility.
Right.
But a lot of that content is soap opera shit. A lot of that content, and people kind of forum owners will kind of disguise the reality, in my view, of why that is allowed to happen as allowing free speech, as opposed to, drama brings traffic.
Right.
To me, I take, and I said this before, I really feel a sense of responsibility that, guys are not coming here. There's a certain segment of the population that are coming to message forums to read the drama, and they have nothing better to do, and they like to be involved in the drama, and they like to troll people. They like to troll doctors or product manufacturers or whomever.
Mm-hmm.
But the vast majority of people, in my view, who are coming to these forums, at least initially, are coming for help. I don't think that shit has any place on these message forums. And that's why we moderate our forum.
Agreed 100%.
All right, guys, listen, let me give out the phone number, 888-659-3727. Joe and I just kind of wanted to start the hour. It's actually, Jesus, we did a full hour already?
Was it?
Yeah.
Just about.
We did some show notes. We said we're just going to talk about this stuff, but we will take your calls. The phone number, 888-659-3727. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, call us. If you have any questions, concerns about your hair loss. And again, look, it's a call-in show. If you guys choose not to call in, I'm going home. We turn this into a podcast. We get hundreds of thousands of views, and we did our job. That's all that matters. But if you want the opportunity to speak to the original hair transplant mentor, guy who's had 9 hair transplants, or speak to me about anything concerning this industry or concerning your hair loss, this is your safe place. 888-659-3727. I'm Spencer Kobren. You're listening to and watching The Bald Truth. Stay with us.
He's an international best-selling author, a contributing editor for Consumer Digest magazine, and the host of the longest-running reality radio show for men. I'd say he's the man.
And the truth shall set you free!
It's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome back. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Give us a call. We are here doing the Hair Loss Show. And it's great to be here live with my trusty sidekick, Joe Tillman, who is live in Vancouver, British Columbia. We have a little studio over there for Joe. And seems to be working out. And by the way, you are going to be, I'm not going to talk about the upgrade, but we are upgrading the studio even more. Yep. And your feed is going to be even more clear than it is right now. So I'm excited about that. Got a couple of calls on the line. I'm going to go to the phones. Let's see who this is. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, man.
Hey, who's this?
Hey, this is Pete. I'm calling from Atlanta.
Pete from Atlanta. How are you, man? What can I do for you?
Good, man. I had a hair transplant back in December 6th with Ken Anderson.
All right. So how'd it go?
Man, that guy is great. Love the dude.
Dude, you know what?
It's fun.
I love hearing that because we hear so much negative shit. When I hear positive stories, let's
not
talk
about him.
Well, no, not about him.
It's just
He's an IHRS member, and Ken's a great guy. And he does really good work and really cares about his patients. So tell us about your experience. First of all, how old are you, and how long have you been dealing with hair loss?
So I'm going to be 49 in May. Started losing my hair about 43. I was
you're lucky.
kind of same as you guys do, like hair metal, rock and roll. Had like the White Snake gig going on.
All right.
Hair stayed good till about 42, 43. Started noticing it then. Got really scared about the propecia and all that. Just didn't want to do it because of all the crap online, you know.
Yeah.
And
I find that to be unfortunate, but I understand it because if I read the shit online, you know, when I started, I've been on this. How long have I been on the drug? Since I was 27.
20 some odd years.
I'm going to be 52. A long time.
I've been on it 15 years as of this month, actually.
Yeah. So if I would have read the stuff back then, if it existed, this information, I wouldn't be behind this mic right now.
I know, man, and like I wish that this stuff wasn't out there because normally I'm like, all right, let's do this, But I started reading it and I got really scared, and I'm like, I can't. Some of this stuff is talking about, well, you can't reverse this, and it's like it's scary.
For some reason, I have a feeling that you may have done some other, recreational things in your past. I don't know. I could be wrong. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, stuff that we did stuff that if it went wrong, that would have been irreversible as well.
Right.
Very
exactly.
wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Quaaludes. This is how I'm rolling. So it's been a while.
Yeah, I've been around for a long time myself, dude. A lot of dry goods involved when I was a kid.
I remember hearing about him when I would watch Three's Company.
Yeah.
It was funny because I kind of found you guys after I did a bunch of research. Found you guys online, obviously, but great show. Love you guys. I mean, you guys are really doing a great thing out there for people, especially people struggling with hair loss. So
I appreciate that.
Found you guys
man.
after the fact, but met with Ken, and Ken is just an awesome dude. I mean, the guy is top notch. I'm only like 3.5 months into this, so I can't give you a results kind of gig, but meeting with him, the procedure and how he was just, I did an artist procedure.
All right, so
2,500 grafts.
So tell us about it from the start. You met with him. He gave you, he consulted with you. What was the consult like?
The consult was awesome. I met with a lady at first. Ken came in. He did an evaluation, took some pictures, told me what to expect.
So you actually saw a doctor during your consultation?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
Now,
amazing.
Surprisingly, I mean, because obviously you lucked out and found Ken or Dr. Anderson. That isn't always the case. A lot of times you just deal with a salesperson.
Right. Well, I called and obviously made the appointment, and there was a salesperson involved. When I got to the consultation, though, I talked to a woman at first, then went in, met with Ken. We immediately clicked. I'm from Pittsburgh originally. He went to Pitt, played hockey up there.
I think he went to Penn State. I think he went to Penn State. We both went to Penn State.
Yeah, and then he played hockey for Pitt.
Yeah.
So kind of clicked there, but beyond all that, I mean, he was just a fun guy, really nice guy, explained the procedure, what was going to happen, how he was going to, because I was really worried about a natural look. I wanted a I didn't want to look like the old, like Joe Biden or whatever with the plugs and,
Yeah.
So
Who does?
He was great.
Yeah.
He was great as far as the consultation. He was there, day of procedure. He does one procedure a day.
Yeah.
Which I liked. And like I said, I'm starting to get a little stubbles coming in. So I think it was successful. How successful, I don't know until obviously, I'm just tap dancing on the edge of 4 months. So
well, let me ask you this:
we'll
you had the robotic procedure, the artist assisted procedure. How right now? How's your donor area look?
Dude, I can't even tell that they took anything from it.
That's great.
I mean,
man.
It's grown back. Like I said, there was, the procedure was 2,500 follicular units. And, man, if I lift it up now, I mean, outside of 10 or 11 days, I couldn't even tell he did it.
And that's the thing. That's actually a very reasonably sized procedure. So that's a good procedure. And if you, at least to your eye, if you think it's undetectable, that's amazing. That's great.
I went and got my hair cut.
Joe has a question for you.
Yeah, I'd like to know what your process was. What led you to Dr. Anderson? In other words, how many consultations did you go on with other clinics? And just walk us through the process that led you to Dr. Anderson.
I'm actually betting that he just met Dr. Anderson and was like, "This is my guy."
And thanks. That's what I was trying to get to. I was hoping he'd say
that. Go ahead, man.
Okay. So, what Joe's saying. Okay. So, Spencer, you're right. I met Dr. Anderson, and I really liked the dude. I had a good vibe from the beginning.
Look, I've been drinking with the guy, so I get it. You know, the guy is just like a very likable, charismatic guy. But with that said, he's not a bullshit artist.
He's not a bullshit artist.
Right.
And we had the same musical taste. We're rocking out. I mean, the whole thing. I mean, we clicked on a lot of levels. But I'm an entrepreneur. I run my own business.
I mean, it sounds like you want to take him out for dinner, dude.
Dude, if my wig blows up like I think it's going to, I'm going to take him for Ruth Chris or something good.
Nice, very nice.
So yeah, but he's just a good dude, and I'm happy with the consult. I'm happy with the day of the procedure was just really comfortable and great. He made everything.
Well, I think just for our listeners' sake, why don't you explain a little bit, if you have time, like what the day was like?
Okay, you get there. Well, I went in the day before and had the PRP procedure. Is that what it's called? PRP?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so he does that free as part of your hair transplant. Next day, came back. You get there about I don't know. I want to say about 7:30. They bring you back in the room. They kind of go over what's going to happen. Me and Ken actually did a video of part of my artist procedure at the beginning that he posted on his Facebook page. If you go back and look, it's December 6th. My name is Peter. You'll see me. I got kind of a beard and obviously a shaved head, but so we did a video of it so you can kind of see how the artist works and how he goes about taking some of the punches out. And I'll be honest with you. After about 20 or 30 minutes in, the drugs start kicking in a little bit, and you kind of get a little like, not sure what's happening here. So,
yeah.
It's
kind of like when we start the show.
Yeah. Same for me. At about 7:30, we start kicking in.
Yeah.
So, but there's a little gray area there after, I remember Ken he does all the punches. He does all the, where the hair is going to go. He does the hairline.
So let me ask you a question. So you're telling me that he's actually running the robot?
Yes. He runs the robot.
Now I think that's important that people know this because that is very unusual. And absolutely. Okay. These guys are supposed to be trained in utilizing this robotic device. It's a robotic assisted hair transplant. So in my view, I believe that surgeons should be the ones who are, clicking that mouse and behind that lever and making all the decisions. Now, with that said,
Right.
there are doctors who sign off on the parameters and then allow their technicians to run it because that's perfectly legal. And I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing if the technicians are well trained and they're skilled and the doctor is at least in the room.
Right.
However, it's pretty unusual for a doctor to do the entire procedure. So I'm glad to hear that.
Well, like I said, he did, he did the robotic artist part of the procedure. I know he did the incisions as far as where the hairs were going to go.
Yeah.
And then, at the end of the day, like we had lunch or something, what happened, and then we went into another room, and then he had some technicians that did the actual implantation.
Well, that's what happens in every practice.
Standard.
That's very standard.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he was there the whole time. He kept coming in. He checked on, how the procedure was going. He came in at the end. We took some more pictures at the end.
Well, because first of all, he's concentrating on one patient a day. So he doesn't have to run from room to room doing 4 or 5 artist procedures, which some guys are actually doing. And not 4 or 5, but some guys are doing 3, some guys are doing 2 at a time. So he really is able to pay. And again, this isn't the Ken Anderson hour, but he's really, he's a recommended doctor. I've been working with him for a long time. He's someone who I happen to like on a personal level, and he's also a great doctor. And that's hard to find. There's some great doctors who are just assholes. He happens to, he happens to be a great guy as well.
He is. He's a good dude, and like I said, man, he was really there the majority of the time. The technicians did the implantation. I mean, he made all the marks where they were going to go, or the incisions where the hair was going to go. And
well, that's what that's what dictates how the hair is going to grow and the direction of the hair growth. So that's the most important part. Now, I'm not saying that handling the grafts and implanting the grafts isn't an important skill set, because it is.
Right.
But the fact that he actually does all the stuff by hand himself is really important.
Now, having said all of that I've said, and I love Ken, and it was great. The one thing that I would say about hair transplantation that as this being my first time, that I kind of feel that people need to know is that this whole concept of, you can go back to work in 2 or 3 days. And blah,
that's
blah, blah.
bullshit.
Yeah, you technically could, but dude, you look like shit for like 3 weeks.
Yeah, if you want to go to work looking like crap and telling the world, if you're willing to say, you know what, I'm having a hair transplant, then you can go back to work. But if you're trying to hide it, there's no fucking way.
It's not workable, dude. I mean, I felt fine 3rd day out. I had a little swelling. Everything healed up great. And, that part of it was great. But you look terrible for like 3 months.
Dude, that is the biggest con. That is the biggest con of the industry. When they say back to work in a few days. Yeah, physically, after you have any FUE procedure, you can go back to work. You may not want to be digging ditches, but you can sit at your desk. You can get on the phone. You can do everything. You could drive a car. You can do all those things. But you look like a freak of nature.
No, dude. I had to wear a hat.
You can go back to work, but it looks like you were mauled by a pit bull.
That's right. Yeah.
I had some shock. Okay, so I had some shock loss, so I lost some of the native stuff. Now it's come back. But,
that's great.
I'm at the edge here of 4 months. So on the 6th of April it'll be 4 months. So I'm starting to feel some stuff. I can feel that it's working, but for 2.5 to 3 months, man, there's an area there where you just was like, holy shit, what did I do? I look worse now than before I went in.
That is
ugly duckling stage.
Hairspray and
Joe calls it the ugly duckling stage. I call it the what the fuck moment. What the fuck did I do? And that is such a common response and feeling. There's so many guys out there who that's why I think full disclosure is just so important. I tell all of the doctors, especially the guys who are in the IHS, like Dr. Anderson, they really, it may turn some people off, But if you give people complete disclosure, saying, look, you're going to look like shit for a couple of weeks minimum. You're going to go through this emotional roller coaster because hair transplantation takes time to really start to see results. So you may have buyer's remorse. If people were prepared for that, at least it would save them that anxiety, and they would go in with full knowledge of everything. And to me, it would really save the physicians a lot of grief, because I guarantee they end up fielding a lot of phone calls from guys like you who were like, what the fuck happened? I thought I was going to be able to go to work in 3 days.
Well, when you're coming off a transplant, though, man, you've got this.
You're fucked up, yeah.
Area, you're fucked up, dude, and you're like, oh my God, I need some help here. Let me see if I can find somebody who's been through this, or I can get some guidance or whatever. And that's the one thing about the process that I would recommend, that give a guy a little bit of guidance, because there's a little bit of depression that comes in. There's a little bit of dude, what have I done? I looked better before I went in. At least I could put some Topic and some hairspray, and I could roll. You know what I mean? And now I feel like I had some shock loss. I lost some hair, and it's like, you're not ready for that. And if I was ready for that, I think I could have done went through this first 3 months a little easier. You guys have helped, because I've found some people online that, had the same thing. But that's the one thing I would recommend to these guys is to kind of give, almost give the post-op care pamphlet before you go in. You know what I mean?
I actually think that what we're going to do is that we are going to isolate this segment and send it to every doctor that I work with, and say, listen, sit somebody in the room and let them listen to this.
Yeah.
Because your truth is that is the average experience. And you seem like you're a level-headed, rational guy. You're a mature guy. But there are people who are 25, 26 years old who are unable to deal with that reality. And we tell them to call Joe Tillman. So
Joe Tillman's I love Joe Tillman. I know he's not getting a lot of love right now, but I watched his hair transplant mentor segments on the YouTube, and great thing. I mean, it's helped me a lot. I found that after the fact, but
did you think
thanks, Joe.
I invested my entire career has been this. Do you think that I would bring on Joe Tillman if I didn't think he was great at what he did? If I thought he was somehow going to fuck up my career?
No, Joe's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Joe's awesome.
Thank you. I have I gotta say I have a lot of fun making those videos, but they're very draining to put them together and to go through that creative process, because my goal is to try to keep them from being as boring as possible. And so,
dude, when I watch them, I'm drained sometimes. I'm like, Jesus, the amount of work you've put into this. I have to actually go down to the guard gate and bum a cigarette from the guard.
Dude, I will say this.
That can mean a few different things.
Yeah, that's true.
If you're into this and you're looking for help, they're not boring, because you're glued on every word.
Oh no! It wasn't that they're boring. I look at them like the amount of work he puts into this. It's like, I don't even. Yeah. I would not have the patience, and I work a lot. I work probably a lot more than the average human being. I'm just obsessed with work. I couldn't do Joe's thing. It's just, I know what it's like to have to edit stuff. I like it clean. I like it quick and dirty. It's very difficult. What he does is very hard, man.
I have learned a new definition of patience by learning how to edit video.
Yeah, his topic video. How ridiculous. I mean, the guy's got a drone. Think about that.
He's rolling in a car with his old lady. He's like, look, my hair's blowing this way. My hair's blowing. I'm like, God, this is a lot of work, dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
it helps to have a willing camera woman in the car with me.
Yeah.
That's one of the benefits.
Awesome.
Dude, I'm telling you, there's no one. When Joe came to me and he said he's going to start doing these videos, I'm like, it's gold, dude. That's money. There's no one willing to put that much effort into this. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
By the way, I meant to tell you, just kind of in the same subject, I told you, and I'm talking to Spencer, I told you that I made all these videos years ago as I'm driving to and from work when I worked at the clinic.
Yeah.
I found them.
Really?
I found them, and I'm watching them, and I'm embarrassed and laughing at the same time because they're so bad.
Dude, but the thing is, you can cut some of that shit together.
You know, and after research and finding you guys was awesome. I mean, you guys are great.
Well, you should have called us earlier, man. When you were going through that stage, we would have talked you down.
I know, man, but you know, it was like I'm over here on the East Coast, and you know, I'm a landscape architect, so I'm out in the field all day. And by the time I got home, it was 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern time, and you guys were over.
Right.
But bottom line is, man, I mean, you know, having listened to you guys and seeing what's going on out there, you know, I think Ken's a great guy, and he did a great job for me, and I'm expecting great results. But if I can help anybody else out there in our position, the only thing I could say is, you know, you're going to have the first 3 months are brutal, dude. I mean, you get some shock loss. You're regretting. I mean, I spent top dollar on this, dude. I mean, it was a lot of money. And you're thinking, why did I spend all this money?
How much did you spend?
I spent $15,000.
Yeah.
On this for 2,500 grafts.
And that's why these guys, and I think it's great that he's doing one a day. Imagine the guys that are doing 3 a day. There are guys that are doing $15,000 to pop a 3 a day. The fact that he can make that money. I got him a lot of respect though. I give him a lot of respect because if he wanted to do 2 surgeries a day, he could.
He could.
Yeah, he could.
And he chooses not to because he wants to concentrate on the patient of the day, which is great.
Well, here's the bottom line. I mean, you know, money is obviously an issue with everything, but you know, I was not going to go for like, you know, $2,000 turkey trip or whatever. I was like, you know, I don't mind paying top dollar. And I felt he was the best around, especially in my area. There was a guy, you know, I lived in Boca Raton for a while. There was a doctor down there that I was looking at. So, you know, there was a couple other guys I was looking at, but, you know, I'm looking like, okay, I got a great guy right here in Atlanta.
I got to tell you, though, for 2,500 grafts and FUE grafts, I think you got a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
You think that's good? Okay.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it's great. Dude, there's
especially get PRP included.
Yeah. I mean, there's guys here in L.A., they're going to charge you, I mean, and maybe the guy in Boca that you were talking about, it would have been like $9 a graft.
Okay.
You know, so you definitely, you did well.
15,000, and then he had a open. You're going to laugh at this, but he had an open box, one of these laser helmets or whatever the hell they are.
Yeah.
The Laser Pro.
Yeah.
So I spent $1,200 on that. I'm like, okay, I've done all this. I might as well get the laser cap. So I think
went for the helmet. You went for the laser cap, dude.
I went for the helmet, dude. $1,625 out the door.
Now you're walking around your house, smoking a cigarette, doing whatever you do after work, with this laser thing on your head.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, what happened to me? You know, I'm thinking, here's a guy who had white snake hair. Dude, I'm telling you, I had the hair from hell.
Dude, I did too. Dude, I had the most beautiful. That's why I'm so sick about this, and this is why I made it my career.
Yeah.
In 1987, when this all started to go down.
Oh, yeah.
The hair that I had the hair of a god. It was like a mane. No, I couldn't walk anywhere without a chick commenting on my hair. It was part of my identity. It was sick. I wore the typical, old school cruiser biker jackets. Not cruiser like in gay cruiser, but like I'm qualifying that I'm not gay, Joe. But but and I'm walking around and the hair, shoulder length hair, like spun gold.
Right.
You know.
Me too, man.
Yeah. But you had it until your 40s. Imagine starting to lose it at 21.
Oh, dude, that would be brutal. I mean, I feel bad. I mean, I feel fortunate that I didn't really start even losing until I was about maybe 42, 43. You know, I was one of these guys that kind of, I'm fixing my hair, and all of a sudden it's like, holy shit, what is that in the back? And there's like a quarter-size spot that's missing. You know, I'm like, holy hell. And then it went pretty quick. I don't know. I'm kind of weird on this Norwood thing, but I want to say maybe like 3.5, somewhere in there. I mean, I wasn't totally bald, but it was thin and pretty quick.
And I don't mean to drag this out, but you're making a lot of really important points, because there's a lot of guys online who believe that once you pass a certain point, and doctors too will say this, in age, it's true. The younger you are when you start to lose hair, in general, the further you're going to progress on the Norwood scale or in your loss, your pattern of loss. However, there are plenty of guys who start at 40 who go from 0 to Norwood 6 in like 6 years. And I've seen that happen. So there's so many people who believe they're safe after 35 or they're safe after 40. That's not the case.
I totally thought that.
No one's safe.
No one's safe.
No one's safe. I heard that shit the same as you, man. I was like, oh my God, I made it to 40. I'm going to roll into my grave with a full wig.
Dude, once that genetic switch is flipped, you're basically your genetic dictates the speed of hair loss as well. So you don't know. Some guys start at 40 and then they'll slowly progress into their 60s and look pretty good. And then, like you, if you went to a Norwood 3 in 3 years, that's pretty quick.
It was pretty quick, man, and it was scary because my one grandfather on my dad's side, he had a full deal. I mean, full black, jet black hair, really nice. I mean,
isn't that depressing?
It is, dude.
Yeah.
And on my other side, was like maybe a Norwood 4 in his 60s. So, I got to like 40 and I'm like, I got this. I'm going to win. I thought I was going to win this whole deal.
Yeah.
And it just started thinning, man. And, it thinned slowly, but enough. And it started bothering me. And some of these guys, a lot of people, I have children. My one son's 30. I have a 28-year-old and a 27-year-old, and they just shave their head.
Right.
A lot of these guys are going bald now, and it's just like it's off, and they're like, I don't give a shit. I'm going to roll with it, which is great. If you can do that, you're golden.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah, dude,
I no hair, but I'm not doing that, dude. I come up like you in the 80s, and the wig was everything.
Yeah, I am not equipped, and I wasn't equipped at a young age to deal with it. I tell people right now that if I have to glue it on, if I have to sew it on, if I have to get a transplant, right now I'm painting the back of my head. I have tried, partial hair systems. If the time is right, I will, and I'm the right candidate, I would get a hair transplant. I was actually at a hair conference where Joe and I actually saw Dr. Anderson. And I was speaking to the great Ron Shapiro, who I work with and Joe worked with. And he actually looked at me and said, you know what, I wouldn't even do a transplant on you. But we were talking about it. And that made me feel really good because he knows, look, the paint works for me. And why take the risk at 52 years old unless you need to do it?
And I agree with that. I mean, I've seen you guys on online, and, what you got working now is working, man. And
Thank you, man.
If you can roll with that and just do a little, kabuki or whatever the hell it is, or spray it, man, just roll with it, dude. I mean,
that's what I did.
The problem with me was I was starting to get thin in the front. So I was like, okay, when it started going in the back, I was like, you know what, I already had it kind of long anyway, so I could pull it over and kind of camouflage it and that kind of thing. But, I said, you know what, I got the money, I'm going to roll with it. I'm gonna do this and try to fix this and get another 15, 20 years. I mean, when I'm in my 70s, I don't really care. Right now,
when you're in your 70s, all you're gonna be caring about is if you could piss without pain. That's what's gonna matter.
That's true, but you will care about your hair.
Yes.
Make no mistake. I mean, I've had patients that were 80 years old, surgical patients, when I worked in clinics, and even older, actually. I think I remember an 85-year-old. But you don't lose interest in your hair as you get older. I mean, some people might. Some people do. But there's a strong chance that you'll still care about your hair. You want to look sharp. You want to look presentable. When you're playing shuffleboard. When you're at the group puzzle day, things like that. Eating your pudding.
Let me tell you though, when you are in your 70s and you still have a full head of hair, I mean, it's like you basically win by attrition. You get all the chicks, You're the man.
Exactly.
Dude, let me tell you something about these old folks' homes. When my dad, let him rest in peace, when I was looking at places like assisted living places and stuff like that, I was finding out like like 40% or something of the people in these places had venereal diseases. And they're just out there, they're fucking like crazy, man. They're going nuts like they're in college.
Yeah.
You know? So the guy that's walking around with his cane and a full head of hair, he's getting all the ladies.
More prescriptions for Viagra written at old folks' homes than any other demographic in the world.
That's right.
My father-in-law's in there, man. He's got a full wig, and every girl in there is all over him.
That's the way it works, man. They give him like the dessert and shit, and then he's on. It's he's in there.
I was going to ask you guys a question if I could. Joe, actually.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not. Your hair looks good. I was looking at you guys online, and how many? I guess it's called follicular units. Have you had? Because were you a total 6? I mean, were you bald like totally, or what happened?
I was past a 6. I was
okay.
If there was a 6.5 on the scale, that's where I was. You look up Norwood 6.5, there's me.
Dude, if there was an 11 on the scale, that's where he was. Go to his website. Here's a free plug, no pun intended. hairtransplantmentor.com, and check out his images. And also check out how he had to live for 10 years with bad plugs as a young man.
I got the photos,
You're a trooper, man.
Not just of right before surgery, which my head was shaved in those pictures, which was before people were saying, you don't shave the head, you shouldn't do that. And anyway, but I've included a lot of photos of what I looked like before I actually went to the clinic to start my repair journey. So imagine, if you will, a 31-year-old.
You were a boy.
Huh?
You looked like a boy with plugs.
I was a boy.
Yeah.
I was a boy. And I had a hairline maybe, I don't know, 1.5 centimeters deep that was 3 grafts per square centimeter, maybe. And each hair had maybe 10, or each graft had like 10 hairs in them. And it was very high up on my forehead, and they were sticking up like literally vertically out of the top of my scalp. And then I had maybe a couple hundred spread out even further behind that, and that was it. I mean, the rest of my hair was gone. Like, I was bald on top. The parietal humps, which are those 2 little triangles that usually come in on the top of Norwood 6, they were gone. Yeah. I just had like the ridge on the side, and my crown was wide open, except for some miniaturized hairs in the bottom half of the crown. So, yeah, a lot of baldness. By the time I was even,
dude, how are you not an alcoholic at this point? I mean, how did you escape that?
Dude, well, I mean, skip right to heroin. I mean, why are you getting worked out? I mean,
as I raise my glass of wine, I'm not an alcoholic.
So early, early like that. It's just that's gotta be brutal. I mean,
well, I had the surgeries. I had 2 surgeries when I was 22 years old. I mean, come on, it's like, here's what's funny and sad at the same time. I asked my first intelligent question to my doctor about hair transplantation when I was in the chair the second time. And that was when I asked him the question, gee, doc, what happens if I lose more hair?
Yeah.
I finally came to the realization that that's probably a good question to ask. And he looked at me point blank. Oh, you're not going to lose any more hair. If you do, it won't be till you're 50. And when you do, just come back and we'll do some more work. The guy was like 60 years old at the time.
He wasn't going to be there.
No, of course. Yeah. He gave 0 Fs. I know we're on iHeartRadio, so I can't say it anymore, but he couldn't care less. He got me in the chair twice. And he said, I won't need any more work for another 25 years. A year and a half later, my hairline was exposed because he placed all the grafts behind my hairline. And it just kept getting worse from that. By the time I was 25, I was a Norwood 4. So I had a fairly large spot in the crown and not much in the front except for those grafts. And that's why I started using that GL. Remember the commercial on the video I did where I stuck the commercial in for GLH hair? Yeah.
Right. GLH, yeah.
That's the commercial.
You know what that stands for?
The babes are back.
It stands for good-looking hair. That's what it stands for. Yeah.
Yeah, good-looking hair.
Dude, I'm so glad that you're where you're at now. I mean, I feel bad for you.
I am too.
And you look great now. You look great now. I mean, you
Thank
do.
you.
Your hair looks good. You're rolling. But that's got to be brutal at that age. I mean, like I said, it didn't happen to me till I was in my 40s. So I feel somewhat fortunate. I mean, you can never feel fortunate when you're losing your hair.
You're way ahead of the curve. You're so ahead of the curve in your 40s to start dealing with this versus a kid in his early 20s.
I can't even imagine, dude. I mean, especially growing up in the 80s.
And I'm going to be honest with you. This is just my opinion. I'm not a physician, but if you would have, when you first discovered your hair loss, when you first started to notice that things were changing, it is possible that if you jumped on medication, that you may have been able to avoid the hair transplant process altogether.
My wife works for oral surgeons, and they are also plastic surgeons. And I had a guy that I came to him and I said, look, I think I'm thinning. He suggested back when I was like 39, maybe 40 area. He said, dude, you need to get on. I think it was Proscar back then. I can't remember.
Yeah. Yep. That's what I take.
And he said, I was like, yeah, I'm all over it, man. But at that time, and like I said, man, I am not drug phobic. I'm not overly. I've got a little touch OCD. I'm very,
you're speaking to like the king of OCD, by the way.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I got a little OCD, and the performance anxiety has kicked in at different parts. So I'm thinking, okay, and I go on the internet, and I'm like, holy hell. The first stuff that pops up is this horror show of, your crank's broke. You got a crimp in your boner for, you can't fix it. Yeah. I'm like, well, it's one thing if you take like SSRIs or like Prozac or something, and you have a little something and you can go off of it. But you got guys on there talking about, it's not even after 6, 8, 10 months out.
Well, you brought something else. You brought something up interesting about performance anxiety. I mean, what do you think happens once a guy, if they are physically impaired by the drug, what do you think happens to their brain?
Oh, dude, it's got to be haywire.
Yeah.
I mean, if you already had like a couple issues with like drinking, and you've had and I know because waking up in the morning, everything's fully like intact.
Right.
It wakes me up. I know shit's working.
Right.
But if you're dealing with anxiety and OCD and these type of different things, and it's already a factor.
Sure.
So now I got this shit coming in on top of it, and I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't know if I can even mentally handle this.
Right.
I'd almost rather just wear a freaking hat at this point.
Right.
Yep. So, and then you start thinking, well, the whole point of having your hair is so you can get laid. If I got hair and I can't even get a boner, what's the point? So
yeah.
There's all kinds of shit that goes through your
head.
Look,
if you are the type of person and who can't even deal with the thought of it, then you made the right decision for you.
Yeah,
that's it.
And if I would have done it back in the day when you guys did it, I would have jumped right in. I would have been not even worried. I've never had a really.
But when we did it, I had a doctor actually who was selling his own product. He's still well known in New York, and he told me that if I decided, I brought this article that I read in the New York Times in like 1992-ish, around that time, about the drug Proscar, which they were starting to test for male pattern baldness because they realized, at least during clinical trials and also once it was approved, that patients were coming back to their doctors saying, I'm growing my hair back. What is this? This is the weirdest thing, where the hair loss stopped. So they made that correlation, and so I brought this article stating that prostate drug being tested for male pattern baldness, and the doctor told me that all these prostate drugs, and this was a newer class at the time, will basically turn you into a woman. You will have no sex drive. You will grow breasts. You will this. I'm just like, I want it. Just give it to me.
Yeah.
I didn't give a shit. I didn't believe it would not make my dick work. Like that's how much I wanted to save my hair. I was willing to take the risk. Now, obviously,
totally understand.
This was before we, all this stuff about possible permanent or long-term adverse side effects, were being written about. But this doctor actually kind of basically said that I would turn into a woman and that would be irreversible. And I still did it.
Yeah.
So,
and I respect that. I mean, look, I want to take the drug. I think it would probably be beneficial to me, but.
And I'd be an ugly woman, I'll tell you that. So.
I'm sitting here like, okay, I want to take the drug. And Dr. Anderson even said, this is the drug because I want you to take this, but here's the pamphlet. Okay, you get the pamphlet and you read the pamphlet and you're like, holy shit. My wife's like, holy shit. I mean.
But I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure he probably takes the drugs. I know I've seen him do PRP on himself.
PRP.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he probably takes the drug himself. He's never told me that, but I'm assuming that if he's concerned about hair loss, he probably takes it.
Yeah.
Well, and normally, like I said, I'm not adverse to taking drugs. I would take it. But if I could mitigate the problem by just stopping, but then you hear these things on the internet about, okay, I've stopped and then I'm still fucked up, and I'm like, dude, I don't know if I want to risk it. I'm an organic guy, dude. I'm eating grass-fed meat and, avocado oils. And, I'm kind of a...
Listen, dude, I get it, man. I totally get it. And I would have probably made the same decision you made. I just feel very fortunate that I was lucky enough to not have to see that shit, even though this one doctor was... And part of the reason I decided to take it also was... I kind of believe that this guy was, being a little hyperbolic when it came to the side effects because he wanted me to continue using his shit and buying his product. So, but look, you had Transplant, you had a good experience. I think the information, I'm going to take someone else's call in a second. I think the information that you provided our listeners and our viewers is vital because sadly, even the best doctors don't really provide, in my view, a full picture of what you're going to be dealing with from the day after the procedure to, say, month 3 or 4. Basically, what they say is, especially with FUE, it's going to heal up very quickly. You're going to see no sign of surgery. You're going to be able to get back to work. That's not necessarily a lie. It's all true. It will heal quickly. You will be able to get back to work, but you're going to look fucked up.
Absolutely.
There are exceptions to that because it depends on how you prepare yourself for it. It depends on,
well, if you do a full shave, and you give yourself
if you do a full shave, you're doing FUE. It's easier to return to work sooner,
right?
As opposed to some patients will have the donor shaved, but then do a long hair placement where grafts are placed in between. That's a bit tougher to pull off.
Yeah.
And then God forbid, like the no shave FUE technique, which is still a shave. It's just a narrow band that's shaved so the top hair can flop over it and cover it. I feel like those are actually the most difficult to deal with because all it takes is a blast of wind and you got this strange shaved out area in the back of your scalp where a little hard to explain.
Well, there's also a very unique defect that I think is pretty visible. Just based on the volume loss, even if the hair is covering and it's sprayed and there's no wind, I can see that defect in almost every patient. So
I'm not a fan of that approach at all.
Well, actually, there's a couple of doctors, and I did interview Dr. Parsa Mohibi about he is now actually doing a no-shave FUE where he goes in, cuts follicle by follicle, spreads the hair apart. It's a really arduous, difficult, labor-intensive procedure.
So it's a true no-shave as opposed to just...
Right.
Yeah.
And there is actually a guy who we will talk about soon in Atlanta. His name is Dr. I could say his name. I think it's pronounced Dano, who is doing a no-shave technique as well. And the results are pretty spectacular. The problem is, you got to be in the chair for a very long period of time. They try to keep the grafts out of the body for a shorter period of time as possible, but sometimes it's more than a one-day procedure. So you have to make that sacrifice in order to, make sure it's as safe as possible procedure and that the grafts aren't out of the body for too long. But if you're willing to spend, 8-9 hours in the chair, 2 consecutive days, there are a few doctors out there that will do a true no-shave FUE. So it's rare, though. But, you can't do that robotically. You had the robotic surgery. I'm glad you had it done with Dr. Anderson because that guy knows what he's doing.
All I can say about Dr. Anderson is he's just awesome. I mean, I like him on a personal level. I like him as a doctor. And my experience was awesome. Awesome. Just absolutely. I couldn't ask for anything better. I can't give you results because, I'm 3.5 months into this. So I can't tell you. I've got some stubble coming in and my native stuff has grown back.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the experience, and he didn't fuck me up, which is, to me, first and foremost, okay, I don't look like Frankenstein coming out of this thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I look like my old self. The hair's coming back. The native stuff is back. I had some shock loss. I can give you guys an update in, 3 or 4 months, let you know how the new stuff's coming in.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I can feel the stubble underneath my native hair, so I know it's coming in. How thick it's going to be, I don't know.
And I want you to be, listen, I work with Dr. Anderson. He's part of my organization. He's a guy who's been accepted into the IHRS for several years now. But I want you to be completely candid. I want you to be able to I want you to feel free to call the show, even if you're unhappy, and say, you know what, it didn't work out. I hope to God that doesn't happen, and I doubt that it will. But I want you to feel free to do that. Because,
and I will. I will.
Because I think
I feel comfortable.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I feel comfortable with him. I think I feel like I'm going to have a good result. Obviously I'm optimistic, but I will let you guys know. I'll wait till maybe 7 months in, so it's not a kind of a biased thing, 7-8 months, because I don't want to. I think it's probably. He told me that you don't really get the full result until a year. I mean, it's about a year out until the hair thickens up and know what's going on. So,
well, I'll tell you what. If you have any questions during that time, because I know that you suffered these last 3 months, you could have called us. If you have any questions, if there's something going on, if you feel like you need a question answered, please feel free to call us.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, man.
And I will. You guys are awesome, and if I could recommend you to anybody, I will, because this is a great help support system, and I found this after I did this. I don't know. I did really due diligence on the internet, and I don't know how I didn't find you guys, but I found you afterwards, and you guys have really helped me out as far as, especially Joe with his whole deal, and you guys are in the same age bracket as me, and we got a lot in common as far as what's going on. So you guys have been great, and it's just a really great service that you're providing for people, and I just want to put that out there.
Well, listen, man, dude, I really appreciate it. I'm glad that you had a great experience so far, and I'm glad that you're very honest about your post-procedural experiences and the emotional aspects of just dealing with a hair transplant after you have the hair transplant, because most people really, they don't know that it's going to suck for a while. It is. They just don't understand that. It's not told to them during the sale.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you can plow through it, I mean, that's, I guess if I could put anything out there to anybody listening that could help them, and I'd love to help somebody else that's going through this, is that, just grind through it, man. You're going to have 2 to 3 months that's just going to be brutal. You're going to feel like, what the hell did I do? I look like worse than I went in, but there's some light at the end of the tunnel, and there's some great results at the end of the tunnel if you can just hold out.
Well, one of the things that you can do, sorry to cut you off, one of the things that you can do to help others is to go onto Bald Truth Talk and to start a thread outlining your story, uploading photos, and answering questions that you will inevitably get about your procedure and about your recovery, your post-op, the whole 9 yards. Pay it forward, as my colleague Specs would say. You learn from online, so give back online, and see if you can help someone else.
Yeah, that's great advice, and the fact that you guys are, kind of consumer advocates more than pushing a product is awesome. And, people feel comfortable here. So I think that if we can pull some people in and, tell them what's going on. And like I said, Dr. Anderson's a great doctor. My experience with him as far as what I can give you as far as the procedure, the consultation, what happened is awesome. Now, the results I can't give you yet, but, that's the first part of the battle is let's don't fuck somebody up. So yes. I'm not fucked up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now we're going to see what the results are. So, I think I've won the first part of the battle. Let's just see what happens next.
I have a feeling that you're going to be pretty happy with the results. As long as you have realistic expectations, know that while 2,500 grafts is a nice size session, it's still only 2,500 grafts. It's not a huge amount of hair that's being moved. But if it's placed well, if the donor hair is utilized correctly, and if you get most of the hair to grow, which, as long as the grafts are handled well and they're extracted without transection, then I have a feeling you're going to be fine and you're going to really enjoy the results.
And that's the good thing about Dr. Anderson is he told me up ahead. He says, this is going to give you a vast improvement, but we probably need to do a second procedure to get the density that you might want.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, okay, I'm pushing 50. I don't want to look like, I'm 14 again. I realize that that's not going to happen.
Yeah, but you may be surprised. You may say, you know what, I could use a little bit more hair. And that's also an important thing. You said he's already spent $15,000. Most guys will need at least 2 passes, especially younger guys. Now you said you're pushing 50, so you may not. But they need at least 2 passes. So you're talking about, a decent hair transplant costs more than an entire sex reassignment surgery. You got chicks with cranks walking around who are trying to save up money to have their entire life changed, and that's cheaper than a hair transplant.
No doubt, man. No doubt.
So, all right, dude. Listen, thank you so much for the call.
No problem.
Good luck to you, and please, if you have any questions, feel free to call and keep us updated.
I'll hit you guys up in about 3 months and let you know how the results are coming out.
All right, and if you have time, do what Joe suggested. Go on Bald Truth Talk. Start a thread, no pressure. It's up to you. I know you're probably a really busy guy, but if you have some time, share your experiences and, put up some pictures, and then you could always just kind of wait and see how the thread goes and maybe come back every couple of months and update people.
Yeah.
And go on Ken's Facebook and look at my procedure because it's on Facebook Live. He did it Facebook Live, so you can kind of see how the artist procedure starts, in the morning, and how if anybody's nervous about the artist procedure, whatever, he's got that up there. It was just December 6th of 16, and you can kind of see how the artist machine works. And if you're scared of it, don't be, because this is a great tool in the proper hands that will work.
You just said the right thing. In the proper hands. You have a doctor who's running the machine. That is very unusual. So
he ran the entire procedure.
Yeah, so that's impressive, and I give him props for that. So listen, man, we got to go. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Good luck, and again, we're here. So if you need to call us, feel free.
Thank you guys for everything, and have a good night.
All right, man. You too.
Thanks for calling.
Care.
Take care.
Oh, my cat! Look at my cat. He's about to scratch me. Dude, I'm in the middle of a show here, dude.
What's that?
I'm in the middle of a show here. I'm trying to tell him. Yeah, and it was a good call. And guys, there were a couple of guys holding on. Sorry, but I really thought that Peter, and that's his name, right, had some really important insight that it's not shared. A lot of guys will come on and say, I had this great experience, whatever it is. Yeah, he had a good experience, but he also wanted to talk about the downside of a hair transplant, which is real. Now, It's just the reality of the procedure. That's it. If you get your nose done, your nose is not going to look like it's going, it's going to be swollen for sometimes up to 2 years, but at least a year. That's just the way that it is. This is a little bit more obvious, and especially depending on how you shave your head.
Yeah.
But like Joe said, I think it's about preparation.
It is. I mean, there are different ways that you can go into this, and as long as you understand what the reality is based on what your normal cosmetic appearance entails. If you have the longer hair, I mean, this is an episode into itself. I mean, you can prep yourself by changing your appearance before you even have the surgery so that people around you get used to the new look. So if you normally have long hair, shave your head 3 weeks before the procedure. That way your colleagues are like, oh, wow, you shaved your head. So you come back after a week of being off and having the surgery, you don't look any different.
You get like a Mike Tyson face tattoo.
That'll do it.
That'll throw him off.
And a nose ring.
Yeah, guys, we got to go. Let me give out the websites, thebaldtruth.com for archives of this broadcast. If you want to interact online with other hair loss sufferers and hair transplant patients like Peter, go to baldtruthtalk.com. Please remember, it's a message forum. Take what you read on any message forum, including ours, with a grain of salt. If you don't know where the information is coming from, I mean, it's a great place to learn, to share, and to, if you're considering surgical hair restoration, to view before and after images and videos and stuff like that. But if some stranger who's anonymous tells you to jump on dutasteride and start, buying all these gray market products, look at it with a jaundiced eye, realize where it's coming from, and that the information may not be coming from someone who knows what they're talking about. So just be careful. That's baldtruthtalk.com. I'll give out Joe's website, and that's hairtransplantmentor.com. You can read Joe's story. There's a lot of great information on the website, and you got to see those pictures, though. That's all. That's the only reason I go there.
They're fun for me to look at, just to remember where the hell I came from.
It's unbelievable. If you want to see what a good hair transplant can do for a person, holy shit, go to hairtransplantmentor.com. Also, the American. Sorry, dude, but it's. Let's face it. You've been through a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got AmericanHairLoss.org for the American Hair Loss Association. This cat is not going to stop. And of course, if you are considering surgical hair restoration, check out IAHRS.org. That's the website for the International Alliance of Hair Restoration Surgeons. Again, look, every surgeon has complaints. That's the way that it is. This is cosmetic surgery. But we brought together the best of the best in this industry who also support truth in advertising and the fact that we are out here giving you guys the truth each and every week. So until next week, be strong, God bless, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.